lady is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm mending little by little. And I had a hell of a day today, though. Oof, I had some serious headaches cooking. I don't know. It was a beast for sure. It was a full day of napping as long as I could just to get away from it. But I got a little bit better by the end of the day, so that's why I'm here, because I was like, am I going to do it? But I just can't stay away. I can't do it, because I love being here with you guys, and thank you all for joining me and being a part of the evening on the Paranormal Portal. And a special thank you, of course, to the Freaky Friday boys for always leaving the path warm and well-traveled. Excuse me. And, it's a tough thing to follow. I'll continue to say that because it's really true. That's just a wonderful show. Excuse me again. But I couldn't ask for a bigger honor than to follow the Freaky Friday and try to do my best to fill those shoes after they leave the stage. But anyway, we got a whole bunch of fun on deck tonight. I think there'll be some cool things to go through. We're going to go through some classical art pieces that seem to depict UFOs. We're going to go through some celebrity ghosts that actually allegedly still appear and regularly haunt their places that were a part of their life. So we're going to get into all that and a whole bunch more. So I hope you all are ready for that. As always, throughout the course of the show, if you want to call in and be a part of the discussion, you have something paranormal of your own that you'd like to share, please, by all means, call in to 720-923-0500. 720-923-0500. And I'll keep watching just to see if anybody's calling in tonight, but it's just you and me, guys. So I don't have anybody joining me tonight. Don will be on tomorrow night because his schedule did kind of a upside down this week. So he'll be actually here on Saturday night with me. But until then, it's just me. And Sheldon couldn't be here because he had a family thing going on back in Minnesota or somewhere around there. So he had to be away too. So Let's see if I remember how to drive this ship solo. We'll see. I think it'll be okay though. We've done it many times, and of course that's why you guys are here. And if you have anything in the chat, those of you that are on YouTube, if you want to get my attention, just type the at sign Paranormal Portal and then your message, because it gives me these big blocks of orange text that make it real easy to see, or at least easier for me to see. Sorry. Just used my inhaler, so I'm a little froggy right off the bat. But it's like old times. Absolutely, Android. This is how we started. And a special hello to all of you in TFR land. I see Bam 420's over there, all one. Psycho Dave 321. Daryl Bowles, Gemini, and Tito Boys. Well, thank you guys for being here, and I hope you stick around and enjoy yourself. Kick your feet up. Relax. It'll be fun. And then let's see who's on the YouTube. Who is here on YouTube? If you're chatting, I should see Android Purity, Asset Ramses, Bobby Simpson, Buzzacino, Cosmic Fleur, Herman Vera, Isaac Areola, Paradox Fossils, MCAT is in here, Patrick McGuire, Portal Mom, hi Mom, Ruger Ridge, Rachel Gets It Right, Saltamontes, and Sugar Britches, and Tracy Gale. So good to see you guys. Thank you for being here and being a part of the journey. Hope you continue to enjoy yourself for all 2 hours of fun that we got on deck here. So I guess we should probably get started on our journey through the Paranormal Portal. And always, we open that on Fridays, Saturdays, and Wednesdays with the news. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, as well. So let's see what kind of fun we brought to the table tonight. And we're going to get to that right now, as we often get many of our stories from a site called mysterious-universe.org. And it's a great site. They do a marvelous job in several of the paranormal categories, writing, in many cases, very small bite-sized chunks. And so I love to feature those stories here on the show because it's perfect for a news segment. And please definitely check out this site and support their work because they're doing great things over there. Again, that's mysteriousuniverse.org. The first story on the night is coming from explain-mysteries.com. .com, I said org all those times. It's actually .com. But mystery object is hurtling through the galaxy. Oh, didn't know that. Well, you do now. Astronomers have obtained their first detailed look at a peculiar Milky Way object known as the Accident. That doesn't sound good. Why would you name something the Accident? Did they just discover it by accident? Like some guy spilled his pop on the desk and changed the camera and like, oh, there it is. Who knows? It says originally detected using NASA's Near-Earth Object-Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, or NEOWISE telescope, this object is not quite a star, yet not quite a planet either. It fits into a class of objects known as brown dwarfs or failed stars, a type of star that can be up to 80 times the diameter of Jupiter, yet with a mass significantly lower than that of the Sun. Brown dwarfs are thought to start off their life as a regular star, but their mass prevents them from being able to sustain the nuclear fusion, causing them to dim and fade away over billions of years. This particular example, however, is quite unusual even for a brown dwarf. Known as the Accident because it was discovered photobombing a group of other candidates. Jeez, just happened to be in there. The object appears to possess characteristics consistent with both young and old brown dwarf stars. The object defied all of our expectations, said lead study author Davy Kirkpatrick. A further study of the object revealed that it is moving much faster than the typical brown dwarf, suggesting that it may have been flung out around the galaxy for billions of years. Its atmosphere is also strangely devoid of methane, indicating that it could be twice as old as the other brown dwarf stars that astronomers have studied. It's not a surprise to find a brown dwarf this old, but it is a surprise to find one that in our backyard, said study co-author Frederick Morocco. I guess it's Morocco. Yeah. We expected that brown dwarfs this old exist, but we also expected them to be incredibly rare. The chance of finding one so close to the solar system could be a lucky coincidence, or it tells us that they're more common than we thought. Well, there you go. It's more astronomical rather than paranormal, but it is unusual. So that qualifies for its mention on our news, of course. So I guess there's an accident just waiting right around the corner. Who knew? Tongue in cheek, of course. This one's a little bit longer, but I thought it was kind of interesting because I know a lot of you out there are fans of the horror genre, and I thought this was interesting. I don't know much about it, but again, from unexplained-mysteries.com, this is Which Urban Legends Inspired Candyman? And the movie sequel is proving to be a hit, but just where did the ideas explored in the film actually originate? This is a lecturer in psychology. It's a little bit longer, by Joe Stubbersfield and University of Winchester. It says, after a long absence, Candyman has returned to the cinemas, directed by Nia Costa. Candyman is a sequel to the 1992 original, which had moved Clive Barker's short story The Forbidden from a Liverpool council estate to the housing projects of Chicago. Just like Barker's story, both the Candyman films do an excellent job of blending together real urban legends to create compelling new narratives. As a character, the Candyman mixes Bloody Mary, a murderous ghost summoned by saying the phrase a certain number of times in a mirror, and the Hawk, a hook-handed murderer, with classic horror elements of Dracula, and in doing so has become a horror icon in its own right. The films also make references to widespread and culturally influential urban legends such as the razor blade and the candy, and the castrated boy, a story with origins in ancient Rome. In fact, the original film did this so well that Candyman has become an urban legend of its own. In researching contemporary versions of Bloody Mary, I came across more than one featuring the Candyman. People perhaps don't fear Freddy or Jason like they do the Candyman, because Candyman come into your home if summoned. Bloody Mary versus the Candyman. The original film presents a single origin for the Candyman. He is a free son of an enslaved black man who was horribly maimed and murdered by a white mob in the late 19th century for his relationship with the daughter of a wealthy white man, a backstory created by Candyman actor Tony Todd. The new film presents multiple versions of his legend, the most prominent of which is one where he is a man murdered by police after being falsely suspected of putting a razor blade in candy given to a white child. The events of the first film are inaccurately retold by one character as another version of the legend, while depicted on screen with striking shadow puppetry and manual cinema. The presence of multiple versions of the story is characteristic of urban legends. There is no one true version of Bloody Mary. For example, it varies across different places, populations, and times. A key interest for me in my research is how often this occurs and why some versions might be more widespread than others. The Bloody Mary legends commonly involve a young woman saying a phrase multiple times in front of a mirror which summons the ghost, who then inflicts horrible violence upon her. Yeah, I can't see why everybody wouldn't call that. With likely origins in older Halloween-related mirror divination rituals, Bloody Mary legends are found internationally. She has also had her own films, although they're not quite as successful as Candyman. In her origin tale, she is often depicted as a victim of gender-based violence. For instance, in one, she is the ghost of a beautiful woman who bled to death after having her face slashed, while in another, she is the mother of a murdered baby. Similarly, in the multiple versions of the Candyman legend presented in the new film, he is shown as the victim of racially motivated violence repeating across history. Versions of Bloody Mary have also been adapted to better fit a particular location or population. In Tennessee, the legend might feature the Bell Witch, a figure known from local folklore. In the Latin word might feature La Lorna, the weeping woman of Hispanic folklore. Both are folkloric figures who predate any recorded version of Bloody Mary, but have emerged with the legend to appeal to local fears. But if local adaptations explain why we find different versions of urban legends, it doesn't really account for why some versions are more widespread than others. The reason for this is that our brains tend to pay attention to and remember certain types of information. Fictional narratives tend to have a lasting impact when they contain social information about interactions and actions of other people and groups, and survival information about potential threats or hazards in our environment. Our brains also tend to enjoy and remember content that evokes strong emotions, such as disgust, Enduring legends tend to do this well, and our brains can't get enough of it. This may be the product of how our minds evolved to keep track of social relationships and to notice and remember threats in our environment. Candyman appeals strongly to these predispositions. It's a lot of syllables altogether. The threat is clear. Say his name's 5 times in front of a mirror and you die horribly. This invitation to say his name, which appears in the advertising for the new film, provokes our morbid curiosity about this potential threat, heightening this appeal even further. At the same time, it's a horror film, so we expect to feel fear and maybe disgust. Candyman also includes non-supernatural social threats, more grounded in the realities of our environment. My research into these biases used Chinese whispers, experiments to mimic how stories are transmitted by word of mouth. I found that social information is more potent than survival information in the transmission of urban legends. There you have it. That was a lot of thought into the Candyman and how it was inspired by urban legends. So, I don't know. Not maybe the most compelling news story, but a little interesting all the same. We all might have learned just a little something there. Maybe. I'm not saying you did, but maybe you did. I know I learned a little. All right. This is kind of interesting because it's, here's the thing. We often see references to the fossil record. Like, well, I don't think these exist because there's no precedent for it in the fossil record. And the supposition of that statement would say, well, the fossil record is complete. And it's certainly not. We're always discovering new things from newly discovered fossils. And so to use the fossil record as a basis for the existence of something, I think is very, very premature, because I think the fossil record is probably very, very incomplete. So this kind of explains that. Excuse me, hold on. And this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. 4-legged land-walking whale discovered. The fossil remains of a particularly unusual species of prehistoric whale have been unearthed in Egypt. Measuring 3 meters in length and weighing in at around 600 kilograms. Kilometers, really? This bizarre land whale lived around 43 million years ago in what is now Egypt's western desert. Known as the Phyomycetes anubis, it had a large snout and strong jaws that it used to catch prey, while its 4 legs helped it to swim as well as emerge from the water and walk around on dry land. The earliest known semi-aquatic whale ever found on the continent, the species was thought to have evolved from land-dwelling deer-like animals over a period of around 10 million years. The fossil remains were discovered in an area of the desert basin known as the Fayum Depression. Phyomycetes anubis is a key new whale species and a critical discovery for Egyptian and African paleontology, said study lead author Abdullah Gohar. The first ever whales were thought to have evolved around 50 million years ago in Asia. Now, on this topic, I think this is interesting because I was once watching a show on polar bears, some kind of documentary on polar bears, and they said the features of the polar bear is so much like an aquatic animal, and yet they're obviously a land-dwelling animal as well. And what was suggested in the course of this was what we are witnessing with the polar bear is an evolution from something being a completely land-dwelling animal to something becoming a marine animal and more whale-like. Now, I thought that was an interesting thing, but even as I look at this, is this maybe a precursor to the polar bears that we have now? And I don't know. I don't know if that's even possible. If, they only found one of these fossils, but could they have been much more widespread and more globally located rather than just a small regional place? So it's, it seems to make sense to me. It really does have a lot. Looking at this artist rendition of it, it's that you can see on YouTube. Sorry, those of you on TFR. But it does look like kind of like a really old version of a polar bear, maybe. I don't know. That's just what leaped out to me as I was doing the story, but I'm going to put the link for that in the TFR chat, and you guys can have a look at it and see what you think. Is that possible? Maybe. Anything's possible, of course, but when we spout our knowledge of the natural universe and all that is in it, I think we're woefully uninformed. But that's just my opinion. I might be wrong too. Let's see, we got 8 minutes. Yeah, I think we're going to be good. I think we'll be doing good here. Let's move on to the next story, folks. And this story is again from unexplained-mysteries.com. And this is archaeologists claim to have discovered the Trojan horse. I find that pretty amazing. Pieces of wood allegedly belonging to the iconic wooden horse have been reportedly discovered in Greece. The story goes that during the Trojan War, the ancient Greeks, at the behest of Odysseus, built a giant wooden horse large enough for a small force of soldiers to hide inside. The Greek forces then pretended to retreat so that the Trojans, who were stationed within the city of Troy, could emerge from the gates and take possession of the horse as a war trophy. It was all an elaborate ruse. However, as the Greek soldiers later emerged from the horse and opened the gates from the inside, allowing the rest of the Greek army to enter and take the city. The final resting place of the wooden horse, if it actually existed, has always remained something of a mystery, but now archaeologists from Turkey claim that they may have found the pieces of wood from the structure in the hills of Hisarlik, at the site of the historic city. The discovery consists of dozens of planks measuring up to 15 meters in length, and which, according to the team, were assembled in such a way as to suggest they were a part of the horse. Excavation leaders Christine Morris and Chris Wilson of Boston University maintain that they have a high level of confidence that the find is linked to the horse. The carbon dating tests and other analysis have all suggested that the wooden pieces and other artifacts date from the 12th to 11th centuries BC, said Morris. So this matches the dates cited in the Trojan War. Huh. Well, there you go, folks. Maybe they did. I don't know. See, it seems to me really highly unlikely that wood would survive and it would just happen to be that wood, but maybe it's true. Anyway, that's the Trojan horse. Maybe. I think that, of course, the researchers want to link their discovery to something famous. It's not like, oh, this was a storage shed from the Trojans, and that's really not as remarkable. But to say this could very well be pieces of the Trojan horse, well, that's amazing. All of a sudden, people will remember your name because you linked something historically significant to pieces you found today. So I can understand the predisposition to want to say that, but I don't know how you substantiate that. Finding just wood laying together in a location doesn't necessarily mean you found the Trojan horse. But who knows? It's possible. Certainly possible. All right, let's get to the next one. And this is kind of interesting for those of you that are into biblical references and possibly validating their occurrence in history. This might be a great article for you. And this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Evidence of biblical earthquake discovered. Archaeologists in Israel have unearthed evidence of an earthquake that occurred in the 8th century BC. Headed up by the Israeli Antiquities Authority and the I.R. David Foundation, or I don't know is that I.R. or L.R.? I don't know. The excavations, which were undertaken in the neighborhood of Silwan in Jerusalem, uncovered damaged buildings, broken pottery, and other indicators that a natural disaster had taken place there. The researchers were careful to rule out other possible explanations, such as fire or flood. However, they ultimately concluded that an earthquake had been responsible. Intriguingly, such an event, which dates back to the 8th century BC, coincides with references to a similar event in the biblical books of Amos and Zechariah. The book of Amos, for example, references 2 years before the earthquake, when Uzziah was king of Judah, while the book of Zechariah contains a passage which reads, "You will flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah." It is now believed that the newfound evidence points to the earthquake described in these texts. Destructive earthquakes in Jerusalem are possible, as shown in the well-recorded earthquake of 1927, said archaeologist Israel Finkelstein from Tel Aviv University. The early layer of the book of Amos includes materials which relate to the 8th century, and hence it is possible that a devastating earthquake left a strong impression and was recorded. Well, there you go. So it might have actually happened, folks. Not just a random reference. It may have been factual. All right. Here's, I think, the last one. Now, this is a really interesting story. I actually have a personal tie to this as well. Not me personally, but a family member. So I'll explain that at the end. Excuse me. All right. This is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Gentle giant Igor Vovkavinsky dies aged 38. Officially America's tallest man, Vovkavinsky was well known for his enormous size and gentle demeanor. Standing a whopping 7 feet 8 inches tall, Igor was born in the Ukraine in 1982, but moved to the United States in 1989 so that his family could seek medical treatment for his brain tumor. The tumor, which was situated in his pituitary gland, caused him to secrete greater than normal levels of growth hormone, thus explaining how he managed to reach such an enormous size. Described as a gentle giant, Igor attracted the attention of millions of fans worldwide, and particularly after being photographed wearing the world's biggest Obama supporter shirt at a rally in 2009. The following year, he was officially recognized by Guinness as America's tallest man. "It feels good to finally have proof that I am the tallest man in America," he said at the time. "Everyone is always asking me if I'm certain that I'm the tallest, and I was never able to prove it. Now that I have this certificate to hang on my wall, I could finally show it." Sadly, at the age of 38, he ultimately succumbed to heart disease caused by his condition. Igor died on August 20th at 22:17 p.m. in hospital from heart disease. His mother wrote he and his older brother, Ole, were with him until the end. His last dinner was a piece of Kiev cake and Fanta. Now, the reason that's interesting is my oldest brother, Jeff, he helped design shoes for Igor when they had lived in Minnesota. My brother, who at the time worked at the shoe company, Red Wing Shoe, was on that project and met with Igor several times and talked about what a really fantastic guy he was, how nice he was, and it's certainly sad to hear of his passing because, living, in an oversized body like that has to be tough all on its own. But the physiological strain has got to be incredible. Like Robert Wadlow, the tallest man ever, was like, I don't know, was he 8 feet 11 inches or something like that, almost 9 feet, and he was constantly, dealing with incredible pain problems in his body and could barely walk. And I'm sure it was very much the same. I mean, Igor could have gotten bigger, but they actually did shut down that pituitary. And I guess that's the bell, folks. We'll be right back.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Half hour number 2 is underway now here on the Paranormal Portal. But my mom was just chiming in the YouTube chat, and she said, because she had talked to my brother many times about Igor and all of that, but said Igor's mom used 3 baseball caps put together to make one cap for him. Their vehicle also had to be altered to enable him to even ride in the said vehicle. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a really tough life because our worlds are built around average-sized people. Maybe even a little above average. Below average is usually not a problem either. But when you're so far above the norm, everything has to be changed and I don't know, altered in order to make your life accessible. So it's got to be a tough way to live. And even going through doorways, you know, we just constantly walk through doors all the time. But if you're suddenly much taller than the door frame, then it becomes an inconvenience, like I couldn't imagine. So, you know, it's bittersweet. He's known and renowned for his height and his size, and also for being a really incredible guy. But, you know, it's obvious that comes with a huge price tag. So, my heart goes out to the family and you know, to any who are close and dear to them. That's got to be really tough. But, you know, it is what it is. I guess it's going to happen sooner or later anyway. But we got a lot more show to go. And, of course, if you want to call in and be a part of the discussion, by all means, please feel free. The number to the Paranormal Portal, if you want to call in and talk to me and share what you've experienced, by all means, the number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. So, love to hear from you if you've got something you want to share. Okay, well, I don't know if that's comparable, G, but I appreciate your pain. All right, so let's continue on our journey. We're going to get into some stories that we've been working through already, but I want to get back to it because it's an article we were talking about the last. I don't know. We talked about it a little bit last night. But we talked about it as well on Wednesday night with Dawn. And this is an article from Thought Catalog. And it's 50 true stories from people who have lived in a haunted house. And having lived in one myself, I don't know if it was just the house or it was me. I don't know if they tagged along or if they were already there. I'm not sure. But I certainly experienced a lot of ghostly encounters during my life, especially as an adult. Not so much as a kid, but as an adult, I definitely did. So we were on number 32 on this list, so that's where we're going to pick it up right now. And I guess we'll just get started. Okay, so number 32 on this list. And this is currently happening in the house I'm living in New Jersey. A week or so ago at 3 a.m., I was just getting up to turn the heating off and potter around after falling asleep on the sofa. I was yawning and rubbing my eyes a lot and was just about to get up to go to bed when I realized this noise getting louder and louder. Like you don't realize it's happening until it's super loud. I suddenly realize and turn my head around to see the kettle boiling by itself. You have to push a button down and it glows blue, which was highlighting the shadow of the button that had definitely been pressed. I freak out thinking I've lost time and it was me, but I've forgotten soil. So I don't know what this means. I've forgotten soil, the word soil, S-O-I-L, and then rationalize. And before I can stop myself, the words, "But I don't want tea or coffee," come out of my mouth, at which point the kettle clicks off. Like I literally heard the switch. It wasn't at the end of the boil either. I'm English and so used to 220 watt outlets, which do everything twice as fast, so I know it was in the middle of the boil. Also, as soon as I said that, I felt guilty, like I shouldn't have been so scared. Like it was a friendly offer. 2 days later, I was with a friend in the dining room table, both of us at least 5 foot and round the corner from the kettle. Nobody else in the house when it starts boiling again. My friend rushes over and points out the button had been pushed, so much relief came over me that I wasn't insane, and I explained it to my friend that this happened to me at night, a few nights ago. I was lying in bed and I could hear a conversation at 4 a.m. No one was around. Neighbors are 20 feet away on either side. Then the kettle starts boiling. I'm pissed, so I literally say out loud, please stop boiling the kettle. We have people sleep upstairs, and it clicked off again. This could just be a faulty kettle or coincidence, but I don't believe in ghosts whatsoever and have never seen or felt anything before. It's just freaky, but it's not that scary. Only my first instinct, I felt as though someone was trying to take care of me. Like when you were sick off school and lying in bed, and your mom or dad would take care of you and bring you soup and stuff. Very, very strange. I find those accounts so interesting because a lot of times it's I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any of this stuff, but, and then they'll go on to explain these things, which are incredibly profound events. Now, if that button is actually a force button, you have to apply a force to click it on, then it doesn't seem like just a faulty switch would explain it. Because they're spring activated. They have to be pressed past a point and then click up into the on position. So, I don't know. I'm just guessing, but that still seems pretty intense. All right, number 33 on this list. As a kid, I saw a lot of shadows, heard a lot of weird noises, the usual. My sister, who lived on the 3rd floor, came down to my room a lot at night to stare at me, sleepwalking, and sometimes slept in my room and forgot about it the next night. The doors creaked and opened and closed a lot on themselves, which can happen in an old house due to draft. Now, this is all stuff that any kid can imagine due to the suggestive state an old house can give a person. Nothing really scary. Also, the alarm went off a lot during the night. Triggered by air? ? One time, my parents were in China for business. Me and my brother and sisters slept at others' places because my parents were away for quite a time. I had to go to hockey practice, but I forgot some gear, so me and my friend went to get it. The house was engulfed in darkness and very silent. As we walked out of my room, we hear footsteps in the attic. 2 of my siblings had their bedrooms there, so I thought one of them was at home. I shouted at them, which made the footsteps stop. After 5 seconds or so, we heard the footsteps coming closer to the stairs and actually setting foot on the very old wooden creaky steps. One step at a time, I actually felt a weight setting foot in front of me. Very strange, but I saw nothing. Nevertheless, we were 12, so we noped the hell out of there. Outside, my friend had a total nervous breakdown because he saw some scary form that looked like an alien to him. He never set foot in my house again. I credit it all to the creepiness of the house, but that one night with my friend still gives me the chills. Yeah, I'll bet. Wow. Can't wait for this to be over. Oof. Not the show, my cold. Or whatever it is I'm dealing with. All right, number 34. So 2 weeks before we moved, my dad and I toured our house, and I noticed this guy was painting the water heater, which I thought was weird, but I was like 10, so whatever. Anyway, we moved in on a Wednesday, and my parents let me stay home from school until the following Monday and preoccupied me with coloring books and a new dollhouse. In my brand new crayons pack, there literally wasn't a blue crayon. Like it was a 64 pack, but there were only 63 crayons in it. One day I went downstairs into the basement, and my blue crayon was next to the hot water heater, and scribbled on there said, "Hi, Fit Nurse 6, Kevin." I was so confused. I started school, and my new classmates were like, "Oh my God, do you live in Kevin's house? Your house is going to be haunted." It turned out that Kevin was a little 8-year-old boy that lived in our house prior to us, and he got hit by a car in the front yard. He would write notes if you left out a pen and paper, open and close doors, adjust the thermostat, the kind where you had to turn a knob, and always turn on Christmas music when it was that time of the year. We had a swing set in the backyard, and even on the hottest, calmest days of summer, only the left swing would be moving back and forth. We had this dumb cat that I would lock in my bedroom at night, and every morning my parents would open the door and let him out, then close it back. Well, one night I woke up and the cat was meowing at the door, and it woke me up. But the door opened, and the cat hissed and ran out really fast. I asked my mom the next morning why they didn't close my door, and they said they didn't open it. Our last story is when I was very upset and nearly suicidal one year during Christmas break. The police just randomly showed up at my house. The policeman said he was patrolling our neighborhood, and it felt like something was wrong at our house. I'm absolutely certain Kevin had something to do with it. Well, that's cool. I don't know. That's not a bad haunting. I mean, it's kind of keeping an eye on things. That's cool. Number 35. Lived in basement apartments with a roommate in college back in 2010. We were eating dinner in the living room and watching a movie one night, and his bedroom is like 3 feet away from the couch we're sitting on, and closed, but not latched. So we're eating dinner and watching this movie, and then his door starts opening and creaking. So we pause the movie and watch as the door swings slowly open all the way. It stopped there, and we looked at each other and claimed a breeze or a loose hinge. Then the door started closing again, only this time about halfway through the movement, the handle turned so that it was perpendicular to the ground. The door closed all the way and the handle released, slowly latching the closed door. The handle in question was the sort of like the ones velociraptors can open in Jurassic Park. Sorry. Jurassic Park doors. Yeah, those doors. All right, number 36. I used to be a server for an old church school that was definitely haunted. I'd be there early to get ready, no one else around, and I'd hear a scream sometimes. Most of the time, the metronome on the piano would just turn on by itself. It didn't really bother me, though, because I grew up around the ghost of my older brother who died when I was born. Lights and toothbrushes would turn on or off on their own, pictures would move, or DVDs would fall for no reason. One time we placed a candy on the baby on a baby photo of him and asked him to move it, and it moved. Thanks, older bro. Number 37. I lived in one when I was a teen along with my parents. Several instances come to mind. We were remodeling an old farmhouse and had been there a couple of months before witnessing anything. One day I was underneath my truck, which was supported by only a jack. Stupid, I know. I was in the middle of working on it with no good reason to get out at that moment. Suddenly, the overwhelming urge to get out from underneath the truck overwhelmed me. No sooner than I got out, the truck fell to the ground. The jack had slipped. Freaked Dad out. He thought I was under it. When Mom got home, we mentioned it, and she started crying, sobbing pretty hard. It turns out the previous owner died in the driveway under a vehicle in that same spot. I would often see moving shadows and strangely hear music from the upstairs area. The windows of the old house were caulked shut, and blackbirds would often get caught between the panes. How'd that happen, if they're caulked shut? We ended up replacing all the windows, but we had to break 3 inside panes to get them out. One of the more disturbing things happened when my mother was cooking breakfast. She turned away to get something out of the cabinet. When she turned back around, all the forks set out were bent straight up. When I was younger, this is the next one, number 38. When I was younger, I used to take naps upstairs, but by the time I was 8 years old, I absolutely refused to go upstairs. The upstairs had 2 large closets, attics. They ran from one side of the upstairs all the way to the other side on both sides. It was essentially a crawl space that was maybe 30 feet long. It started one day when a friend and I went crawling from one side to the other with flashlights, like kids normally do, when I saw a girl sitting there in the corner acting like she wanted to play with us. I know a lot of people say that when they see a ghost, they aren't scared, just interesting. Nope, I was beyond terrified. This girl looked normal, had blonde hair, a nice dress, and seemed friendly. I stayed silent, kept crawling behind my friend, and got out of the closet. Told him what I saw in there, and he said he didn't see it, but felt like he didn't want to go back in. Then my parents would occasionally send me upstairs to get something, and when I would get up there, I would see the doors swinging open, as if they were trying to get me to come inside. I'd lose toys and wouldn't be able to find them anywhere, and suddenly my parents would be fishing out Christmas presents in the attic, and they would find some of my toys in there. I remember being 8 years old, my parents were asleep in the morning, then I leashed up my dog to go take on the monster in the attic. My dog, usually up for anything, refused to go off the top step into the attic. My parents never believed me with all the weird things that happened in that house. I'd get blamed for things that happened all over the house, leaving lights on, toys all over, things I knew I didn't do. Well, anyway, we move out of there when I'm like 10. Not a week passes before the new owners call us up and ask if the house is haunted. Their daughter sleeps upstairs, and she says that she's been playing with a blonde-haired girl at night. My parents laughed at how crazy these new homeowners must be To make an already long story short, the girls started appearing in other parts of the house for them. They kept in contact with us. They would look over while watching TV and see the girl sitting on their daughter's lap, etc. They looked up on the computer the past owners of the house and found an old dressmaker that lived there, and yep, a picture of a little girl wearing one of the ladies' dresses. The family that moved in there were absolutely torn apart by all the events, got divorced, Dad stayed living in the house and ended up taking his own life in that house. Yeesh, yeah, I don't know. It looks like a little girl, but is it really? Just saying, is it really? I don't know. Number 39, my father-in-law died before my son was born, so he never meet him. And when we moved into our new home, my son would often be laughing in the middle of the night by himself. No biggie, kids will play with anything. One day, we're finally putting up pictures in the house, and once I put up the picture of my father-in-law, he said, "Oh, Mommy, why do you have a picture of that man that comes and plays with me at night?" He had never seen a picture of my father-in-law before that. Oof. Well, at least it's a good present. You should take a week off. You need a refresh borrow. Oh, come on. It's this stuff that keeps me going, Taco. It's this that keeps me driving. You guys push me to better health. I mean, I could just curl up in a ball for a week. And I did that most of the day, as a matter of fact. But, yeah, I don't know. I just really look forward to doing the shows, even when I don't feel so hot. But this is the improved version, Taco. Trust me. It used to be much worse. Number 40. One recurring incident that involved hearing the voices of my family members who weren't even home. Sometimes I'd wake up to hear my parents fighting, or my brother and one of my parents, but would find myself home alone when I went to check. It would usually occur on the opposite floor as I was, upstairs if I was downstairs, and downstairs if I was upstairs. And I would stop right when I got onto the same floor. One time was different, though. I was brushing my teeth with the bathroom door shut when I heard one knock and my dad saying my name in a strange and teasing voice. Ooh, that's creepy. When I opened the door, he wasn't there. And when I asked my mom where he was, she said he went out to work hours ago. He was a lineman with crazy hours. I went back to the bathroom, and almost right after I shut the door, again I hear more knocking, but didn't open the door that time. Good move. I don't have any shy ghosts. I told my friends when I was a preteen that my house was haunted. And when they stayed over, they would always see for themselves. One of my skeptical friends saw a shadow person watching her from the staircase. Another was up late with me and heard banging in the kitchen, and when we came out, every cabinet was open. One friend never returned to my house because of an incident. We were in the kitchen, and we heard distinct knocking on the outside of the house, about 10 feet up from the ground and out there. When we went to follow the noise, it was returned with knocking inside, then more knocking outside, then knocking inside again, and a line towards the room we were sleeping in. And again, in a line towards the room we were sleeping in. When we cracked open the door to peek in, every shade and curtain blew open violently. We didn't sleep in there, and her mom told my mom the next day that her daughter would not be coming back to our haunted house. This was the day my mom admitted that she'd had strange experiences as well. Yikes. Number 41. I used to live in an old, big, 5-bedroom house with 6 people. My significant other and I shared one of the rooms. I saw a stranger in my room when I was in my 20s. It wasn't exactly visible, but I somewhat knew it was right there in the corner of the room. My significant other was next to me sleeping. When I had my eyes open, I knew it was there. So I closed my eyes, tried to wish it away, opened my eyes, and it was now next to the bed looking at me. I closed my eyes again, and suddenly relief came. I opened my eyes, nothing there. I saw it once again on the stairs. It was only a brief moment this time, but then it was gone. Yeah, that's all kinds of creepy. Being right next to you as you're sleeping. Not good. Number 42, one of my exes lived in a haunted condo, but the ghost was pretty cool. He just opened doors and cabinets at night. Of course, she had failed to mention this to me when I started staying over, so the first time it happened, I thought someone had broken in. When I woke her up to tell her to listen, she said, "Oh, that's probably just the ghost. Hey, Norman, could you please stop it for the night? I haven't told you about him yet. Or I haven't told him about you yet." There was one more sound of a door closing, and that was it. You should be fine now. He went back in the closet. Then she went back to sleep. Me, though, I couldn't sleep after that, so I went downstairs to check the locks and windows, and everything was secure, but most of the cabinet doors in the kitchen were open. The next morning, she told me all about Norman. I guess when her kid was smaller, she used to talk to Norman, and that's how they knew his name. He was just an old, happy guy that lived there and at one point and wanted to stick around. Eventually, the kid could no longer talk to Norman, and that's when the door and cabinet thing started. From what I understand, he also used to move things around, but that stopped when my ex asked him to. He was plenty active, too. Over the course of the year her and I dated, Norm made countless other visits at night. The coolest encounter was when we were both up late night watching a movie, and the closet door opened, and my ex greeted him with a, "Hey, Norm," and he returned the gesture with a knock on the wall behind us. Never could explain any of it, but it was pretty cool. That's a cool place to be, I guess, if you're going to be haunted. Just got to get to know him. Number 43, when I was younger, I was in a band with a drummer named John. John's parents were divorced, so he spent half the year with his father and half with his mother. His father was an airline pilot and lived in a townhome community. That was once some big farm. This was outside a major East Coast city, and apparently this ghost haunted all of the houses in this community. Living with one family for a few days or whatever, then another for a week. The people in this community were mostly elder and retired there, so they were all used to it, and called the ghost Charlie. John would tell me things like he and his dad would be watching TV and the radio would come on. His dad would say, "Come on, Charlie, we're watching TV. Go listen to the radio upstairs." And the radio would go off and the one upstairs would come on. Another story I remember is that his dad was ironing some pants, and the phone rang, so he went to answer it. Nobody was there. He went back to the ironing boards and the pants were gone. He said, "Come on, Charlie, I need those pants for work." And the doorbell rang and the pants were folded on the front steps. Things like that. I, early 20s badass, didn't believe a word of this. One day I was helping John move his drum kit from his father's basement to his mother's house because it was his mother's turn to have him or something. And this is the first time I've ever been in John's house, and I was on the lookout all day for something weird. So I'm carrying the last of the hi-hat or whatever up those stairs, and I go, "Okay, ghost, if you're really here, I want to see a sign right now." The light above me in the stairwell got super bright and then exploded. That's a pretty good sign. To this day, my speed in leaving that house remains unmatched by any Olympic athlete and most land predators. Number 44, I live in a house built in the 1800s. It survived 2 world wars, and it's seen some stuff, I imagine. Well, one of the previous owners had 2 sons, and both committed suicide. Oh, that's so tragic. A lot of strange stuff happens. The animals, dog and parrots, will wake up from their naps and follow something with their heads, just as they would follow me if I walk around. Also, before I switched rooms in the house, my brother had a room, and he refused to sleep in there as he would hear voices. He slept with my parents. He was a child. And until the day he got my old room, and since then has slept in that room without problems. There's also a whole floor we don't use, and I sleep in the attic, and I pass through that floor to get to my attic. Weird explanation, but it's a weird house. And I have a motion-activated light there that goes on as I'm walking the stairs to that unused floor. I would also switch on in the middle of the night while nobody is walking under the motion detector. There's cold spots. Okay, we got about time for one more here. But number 45, I had fallen asleep at night with my fan running and woke up freezing. I turned it off. Not long after that, I woke up hot and turned it back on. This happened several times, and the last time I woke up hot once again, and the moment I opened my eyes, I heard the pull of my fan and looked up to see it slowly speeding up. I said, "Thank you," and fell back asleep. Yeah, exactly. If they're going to be there, they might as well be handy. I think that's important. But yeah, we got a couple more, and we'll get to these on the other side, and then we'll get into the celebrity ghosts. And then we got some UFO stuff to get into. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so we're on number 46. So we'll come back to that on the other side of the break, ladies and gentlemen. And also, just so I make sure I don't forget, if you're listening on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, or TalkStream Live, stick around after the Paranormal Portal, because Fridays are epic here on the TFR schedule, because it starts with Freaky Friday, comes to the Paranormal Portal, which I think is pretty epic, but I'm a little biased, of course. And then after this comes Paisley Wild and the spaces between. So that's a great lineup, and I hope you'll check out her show, which follows. And if you are on YouTube watching and you want to check out her show, just go to youtube.com/the spaces between. And that will be her show there. She streams it as well, just like we do here on the portal. So those are some options for you. But there's the bell, folks. We'll be right back. Don't go away. More of the Paranormal Portal after these messages.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
From which they cannot wake. I can't see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Yeah, I guess it could be. Thank you all for your concern. I know I sound a bit froggy, but honestly, this is really the improved version. If you could have heard me last weekend, I think, yeah, I missed pretty much everything except, well, some of you heard me Sunday night when I did the Night Terrors here on YouTube, but really, this is the way improved version of me. Trust me, that it was so much worse. I sounded like Darth Vader. I was like, I am your father. Just really harsh, but this is really the way improved version. Again, you know, I am getting better all the time. Every day is a little better. The only thing that's really busting my hump today is the headaches. It's just been really, really pretty intense. So, but other than that, everything else really seems to be on the improvement end. So thank you, though. I'm always blown away by the concern you guys show me. That means so much. So thank you for all of that. But I'm getting better. Promise. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't. Trust me. I just couldn't do shows when I was at the low point at all. And you know, I did Sunday, but then after I was done with the show on Sunday, I was like, I think I shouldn't have probably tried to do that yet. But then I had Monday and Tuesday off, and I've been back at it since Wednesday. And it's, I think my voice is holding more and more each night. Like Wednesday's show is 2-hour show as well. And it was like, I got to a certain point and it was like I was chewing on gravel, you know. And I'll probably get there yet tonight, but it's lasting. My voice is holding stronger tonight than it ever has. So far, so good. But thank you again for all the caring and concerning. Yep. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you, Dream. I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate any of your, oh, thank you, Brooks. I appreciate that. Thank you all. That means the world. But yeah, I'm getting better. But your prayers are always welcome. Thank you. So we've been going through this article, and we're just about done with it, but we're on number 46 of stories from people who have lived in a haunted house. This is coming from thoughtcatalog.com from 2018, it looks like. Maybe December 2018. But January Nelson, is that who compiled this? I don't know. But anyway, let's get through number 46. And it goes like this. A lady who had 2 husbands die on her in the same house. That's the house my dad decides to buy. The first one hung himself from the rafters in the garage, and the second one fell ill and died in his bed in the basement. I lived in the basement room and often just felt like I was being watched all the time. The bedroom in the basement has a secret storage room behind a bookshelf with a locking latch. Well, that's kind of cool. I would always wake up to find that door wide open. That's not so cool. It happened so often that I would wake up cold and routinely go shut and lock the latch of the door in the middle of the night. For the longest time, I thought it was my dad or stepbrothers just messing with me, but it wasn't. My stepbrother now occupies that room, and he says it still happens to him, and that he's even seen it open on its own. There are no air vents or anything, so I've ruled out wind. Also in the garage, I always see a light coming from under the door, through the crack, only to open the door to pitch black. I've heard sounds coming from the garage only to find saw blades clanging together and slightly rotating in their place on the whole storage wall. Don't think anything of it at first, but when you find things moving on more than one occasion, it makes you look over your shoulder at the rafters and just wonder. Yeah, that's a lot of activity. Number 47. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened in my childhood home. It was originally built in the 1960s, but it burned down soon after my parents bought it in the early 2000s. Our pets in the house died, but no humans. Number 1, a strange Star of David pattern used to show up on shiny surfaces in my room. Not that I'm Jewish, neither is my family, and I didn't know anyone that was Jewish. It showed up on a belt buckle of mine and then appeared on my mirror soon after. I still have a picture of it on the buckle. It stopped showing up a few months later. My sisters were taking down posters in the room. The room was downstairs and on the opposite side of the house, and the pattern was on the back of the poster by their bedroom door. The poster had been up for over a year and had never been moved. Number 2, it was about 2 to 3 a.m. on Christmas Day, and I went to use the bathroom, and there was a vent on the floor by the toilet. All the vents in the house all led to the laundry room, and I clearly heard echoes of a grown woman lightly sobbing. The only grown woman in the house was my mom, and I asked her if she'd been down in the laundry room, and she said no. Number 3, I was sleeping on the floor of our den with a blanket over my head, and I was laying on my side and suddenly felt something small and cool apply pressure to the side of my elbow. It was about the weight of a small cat stepping on you, and it was like someone was pressing 2 cool fingers on my arm. Thinking it was one of my siblings messing with me, I hurried up and threw the blanket over my head, and no one was there. The den was a big open space, and there was nowhere for anyone to hide in that short amount of time. Number 4, my mom had a little workshop in our laundry room, and she said she had put a coin in a certain spot on her work table and then turned around to do something. She then clearly heard the scraping sound of metal being moved across unpolished wood, and she turned back around, and the coin had been moved to the other side of the table. Number 5, we had a deck overlooking a pond in our backyard, and my mom had taken my 2 siblings out there to look at the fish. My mom was sitting there when she suddenly heard a man urgently whisper my sister's name right by her ear. She went to go flip out on my dad when she realized she wasn't home, or he wasn't home. There were no other men in the household. Number 6, my grandma, my mom's mom, did a lot of bad things in her life, including abandon my mom as a newborn. My mom's grandparents, my grandma's parents, so my great-grandparents, adopted her. My mom went to walk out of her room when she clearly heard her grandfather's voice angrily say, "Your mother!" He was angry with her when he was alive, and he'd been dead for over a decade at this point. Number 7, there was a lightning storm we were having one summer, and we had French doors that overlooked our backyard, so I could see our deck and pond. The lightning flashed. This sounds cheesy and movie-ish, but I saw a man about 6 feet with his back turned to me standing on our deck. I freaked out and got my parents, and they looked, and no one was out there. Number 8, there's a lot of parts of this story. Number 8, my sister's boyfriend was over one time, and he was in our family room, which was right next to the laundry room. My mom had shut the door with the light still on in there, and he said he saw a shadow pacing back and forth across the door. Another time, he and my sister saw a gray mass standing at the end of upstairs that led to the family room. As soon as they saw it, it shot up the stairs and disappeared. Number 9, I was in my room on my bed when I heard a heavy labored breathing at the end of my bed where I couldn't see the lights were off. Like this breathing was so freaking scary. I still sleep with the lights on 10 years later. I ran out of my room to get one of my sisters to see if they could hear it too. Silence. My sister sat there for about 20 minutes and then left. Not long after she left, the same guttural, loud breathing began again. Number 10, this wasn't in my childhood home, but in my boyfriend's family house in a different country. His sister was telling me about she had heard a loud stomping on the stairs when no one was in the house before. A couple of months later, it was just me and my boyfriend in the house. He was taking a nap on the couch, and I was sitting there with him, and I suddenly heard someone stomp onto what sounded like the first step of the stairs that led to the living room. The stomping quickly became extremely loud and boisterous. I sat frozen in shock at the noise and heard the stomping nearly reach the end of the stairs before it turned around and started back up to the top. It then began to descend the stairs again, louder this time, like they were trying to break through the wood. It got about halfway until I screamed, "Stop!" Well, the sound ceased, and I didn't hear it again. There were also strange fleeting shadows you would see upstairs, sometimes accompanied by a strong feeling of being watched. Yep. Here's another piecemeal one that's got several points. Number 48, I lived in an old haunted house in college. Things got so weird that everyone moved out except for me and one roommate. Here's a few. Number 1, I woke up at 3 a.m. because my roommate's door kept opening and slamming shut. From bed, I yelled for him to stop, only to realize I was the only one home that weekend, and as soon as I yelled, the slamming stopped. But the hippie beads I had hanging out to my closed door began to sway perfectly, yet violently against my door frame for a half hour. While I debated if I should pop out my air conditioning unit and jump out of the window, I laid in the fetal position in bed until it stopped. Number 2, I woke up 3 a.m. alone again, hearing the Nintendo on the back porch playing loudly. I figured a drunk kid came in and started playing. I grabbed a bat and walked towards the back of the house. As the music got louder and louder, as soon as I opened the door, it was completely quiet. And mind you, it was loud enough to wake me up. Number 3, I had friends over and told them the house was haunted. No one believed me, so I asked the ghost to do anything to prove it was there. As soon as I asked, all the lights in the house began flickering for about a minute straight. This was the middle of the day. Everyone witnessed it. Number 4, almost everyone who stayed in the house had sleep paralysis at least once in the house. Number 5, every time something spooky happened, the house would smell like an old lady flowery strong perfume. Number 6, the house had a door built into the flooring that led to the basement. We always had a rug covering it up so no one knew it was there. Things would constantly go missing in the house and turning up in the basement, and this house had a coal chute from when it was heated by coal back in the day. Missing stuff would always be placed on the chute for us to come and get. Number 7, roommate had some issues once. While playing video games late at night, he saw mist kind of hovering from the kitchen, then move into the bathroom. The bathroom had a trap door that led to the attic, so that's where we figured the old lady ghost used to like to hang out. Number 8, roommate was up late. He went to go lock the doors and turn off lights. When he returned his back to the room and walked to the door, someone breathed into his ear, "Ha!" He thought it was me, but I was sleeping, and he turned around, pissed himself, and then ran to his room. He was too afraid to come out and turn the lights off and TV. Number 9, loud thumps in the attic at all hours for peace of mind. We told ourselves squirrels must have gotten there. 10, voices would wake us up in the middle of the night, and I spent many mornings in the front porch waiting for the sun to come up before I went back in the house. Number 11, coincidentally, I had a friend years later that rented from the same landlord, same town, different house, where he and all of his roommates moved out because the house was also haunted. I don't think it was too weird until he was telling me that when all of the weird stuff happened, it was accompanied by old lady flowery stinky perfume. Also, a lot of people had sleep paralysis in that house as well. Aha, who's this old lady? She's making the rounds. Number 49, closest I've got to a haunted house is a haunted room. I used to sleep on the second floor, the bottom one being the first, and my sister in the attic, and she used to have sleep paralysis often. Then she moved out, and now I have her old room. She no longer has sleep paralysis, but I do. You know, I think that there is really something profound with sleep paralysis. And I do think it can many times be paranormal. I think that there's also, a medical reason for some sleep paralysis. Like, I don't think it's all paranormal, but I think that there certainly is something for those people that experience a presence as well. I don't know. I had sleep paralysis over a long period of time, a couple of years, and it always felt like someone was right there making that happen. So, just saying. First time I ever experienced it, I was actually in my ex-wife's house. It was before we were married, but we were visiting. Her mom still lived in her childhood house. And I was in a room, and we slept apart, of course, just to respect the family and all that. But I was in a room, and it was just me. The door was shut, but there was this big chair, oversized chair in that room. And I woke up, and I was stuck. And I didn't see someone in that chair, but I knew someone was there watching me. I don't know how to explain it. That's the first time I ever experienced sleep paralysis, and then experienced it many times in subsequent years. But then it just kind of quit. And I don't know if it's what I figure it was is that I finally figured out how to break it, because I was dealing with it so often that I started to figure out there's a process that I have to go through for me, where I just needed to move something. If I could make something move, just a pinky, I would just grab onto that with all of my energy and focus on it and continue to move it, continue to move it. Then I move another finger next to it and soon my whole hand and still trying to break it. And once I could move my arm, and then I got my eyes open a little bit and was able to force myself up. I knew I actually had to get up and leave the bed whenever that was happening, because if I just, I'm okay, and then fell back asleep, I'd experience it exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing again. So when I figured out how to break it, then it just seemed to not be an issue for me anymore. But it was quite a hell of a run. All right, number 50. My uncle's house out on a very eastern part of New York is said to be haunted due to the family that used to own it in the 1800s decided not to give it to the stablemen and sold it instead. He and the maid were said to have haunted the place. We always used to joke that you would hear people or things moving at night, but since the house is so old, we used to just laugh it off. My uncle's friend had her and her sister stay over at the house one night, and the friend noticed a maid bringing towels down the stairs when she woke. She saw the maid again bringing what looked like a percolator down the stairs. She was so impressed by my uncle hiring staff. She's a neurologist in New York City, and she had a big habit of spending a little bit extra. She went back to bed and woke up later downstairs to see my uncle and his friends just chatting. She asked where the maid went, and she thought that the maid was cooking breakfast. My uncle had no idea what she was talking about and asked what she looked like, and the sister explained, and he laughed, walked her to the living room and pointed to an old picture. She said that was the woman. My uncle replied, yeah, she's been dead for about 100 years. Oof. That is very intense stuff. Man. There you have it, folks. That's what living in a haunted house, I guess, is like for many of these people. I don't know. What I noticed when I lived in a house with a lot of activity was it was never all the time. It was just certain times of the year the energy would become different or whatever, and things would change. But it was, and I don't remember what times of year necessarily, but I think it was like late summer, fall is when things started to get weird. A little bit into winter, and then it would just go quiet until the next year for the most part. Every now and then there'd be a little something, but it was definitely that time of year. Sorry, I'm fighting off the frog. But, I don't know, different places have different issues, I guess. But I did notice there was definitely a seasonal rhythm to it, for whatever that means. Now we're going to move on to some other ghostly news, and this is celebrity ghosts. And there are pictures in this article, but they're more just historical pictures and not actually photos of the apparitions themselves. But this is an article from Ranker.com. And this article is Famous Celebrity Ghosts as Famous in Death as They Were in Life. This is written by Rebecca Shortall. It was updated last on April 17th, 2020. I'm not going to read the whole fluffy intro, but it talks about famous people, leaving impressions behind too, I guess. The first one is Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was found dead of an overdose August 5th, 1962, at her Los Angeles home, and rumor has it that she still haunts the Brentwood home where her body was found. But she also supposedly makes the occasional ghostly appearance at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel in her favorite cabana room suite. Monroe is said to haunt the full-length mirror in the hotel's lobby and has appeared as a pink mist near her crypt in Westwood. A pink mist. That's a very unusual colored mist. So I guess maybe she was just that flamboyant in death as well. Like she just couldn't be a white mist or a gray mist or a black mist. She had to be pink. John Lennon is next as far as celebrity ghosts. Lennon's been in communication with a lot of famous folks, including Paul McCartney, who claimed in a Rolling Stone interview to have asked the spirit for songwriting advice, and Oasis. Lennon was shot by Mark David Chapman on December 8th, 1980, outside the Dakota of his hometown, his New York apartment building. Apparently, this is the place that Lennon's ghost returns to the most, and it was already considered haunted by several ghosts. The coda was used as the residence in Rosemary's Baby. The movie Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, that's very tragic. Elvis Presley. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. This is the king, of course. The king of rock and roll met his untimely end when he died of a heart attack on August 16th, 1977. When did Lennon die? What did they say? December. So these are all fall, winter so far. 1977, Presley was found in the bathroom of his home in Graceland, Tennessee, and reportedly still haunts the property. But Elvis gets around. He's also been spotted at the Las Vegas Hilton, where he gave his final big performance, at other locations in that hotel, and in the old RCA recording studios. Workers at the former music recording studio, which is now a TV studio, have reported instances where someone brings up Elvis in conversation and unexplained noises appear on the sound systems and the lights begin to flicker. Spooky stuff. There you go. Amy Winehouse. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about this one. Winehouse tragically died of alcohol poisoning in 2011 at the age of 27, becoming a member of the infamous 27 Club, but it seems she hasn't quite left this plane yet. Pete Doherty, a close friend of Winehouse's and former member of the Libertines, was convinced that Winehouse was haunting his flat, so much that he fled to Paris to get away from her ghostly presence. Oh, man. I imagine she was kind of a tormented soul. Jim Morrison. People are strange. Another member of the 27 Club and former lead singer of The Doors died in a bathtub in Paris on July 3rd, 1971 from a heart failure in what is widely believed to have been an overdose. But it seems that his ghost traveled all the way from Paris to Los Angeles, where he's been seen in the bathroom of Mexico restaurant Ibarra, which was built where the Doors' preferred recording studio once was. Unfortunately for ghost hunters, the restaurant closed in 2010. Morrison's ghost was also apparently photographed near his grave in Paris, France in 1997. And that isn't depicted in this article, so there's nothing really to see. Anna Nicole Smith. A former Playboy playmate actually told FHM that she hooked up with a ghost once, so maybe she found her former paranormal paramour once she became a ghost herself. Smith died of an overdose in room 607 at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Florida in 2007 and still haunts its halls. At least, according to a guest named Stephanie Pont, who claims to have seen Smith's spirit roaming around the hotel. I guess if you got to be a spirit roaming somewhere, maybe a hotel would be a good place because there'd always be new people, new things to see. I can imagine like being stuck in a closet in some old decrepit house. All right, Harry Houdini is a famous ghost apparently. Renowned escape artist Harry Houdini could not escape death's clutches, and now he is apparently shackled to his mortal coil. He died from a ruptured appendix on October 31st, 1926. What a day to go out. Houdini's ghost is rumored to haunt the Hollywood mansion where he was thought to have lived or at least visited during his life. As many in the Laurel Canyon neighborhood claim to have seen a spectral man matching his appearance. However, it now seems unlikely that Houdini had any association with the mansion. The haunting remains a mystery. Well, I don't know. I don't know how spirits become attached to some location. Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball's ghost story, ghost likes to party. You could even say she likes to have a ball. The I Love Lucy star died at age 77 from a ruptured aorta following open heart surgery, but nothing keeps a good ghost down. The owner of Ball's house in Beverly Hills have complained of sounds coming from the attic, such as voices that sound as if they're talking over loud music. Seems as if Lucy has some ghost buddies over that she's having a blast with up there. They've also mentioned supernatural happenings like furniture moving about of its own accord and household items disappearing and reappearing in different places. Jean Harlow. Wow, that's a blast from the past. The phrase blonde bombshell was coined to describe Jean Harlow. This girl originated in one of the hottest descriptors in the business, but another kind of bombshell broke when Harlow suddenly died of kidney failure on June 7th, 1937. However, it appears that Harlow has some unfinished business to attend to with her first husband, Paul Byrne, an MGM studio executive, with whom she had a tumultuous relationship. Byrne later killed himself in their home while Harlow was staying at her mother's, but Harlow's spirit was apparently stuck around. A family who lived in their home later on described hearing racking sobs, smelling mysterious perfume, and hearing a woman's voice whispering, "Please help me." Oh, that's tragic. If she's stuck there, I hope somebody did help her. Joan Crawford. We got about a minute left, so There's not much more. Joan Crawford's daughter has claimed that she and her mother lived in a house that was already haunted. So when Crawford died of a heart attack on May 10th, 1977, it seemed as though she joined the ghost party that was already raging. Apparently, Joan and other ghosts spend their time starting fires or trying to burn the house down. Jesus. According to the book Hollywood and the Supernatural, an exorcist was even hired to clear the home of malevolent spirits. And she referred to Crawford's home as a place of conspicuous negativity, calling it an astral center. Sorry about that. And George Reeves. I think we got enough time. We're going to hit the bell. The Superman star now flies around in a more phantasmic sense, haunting his former home where he died of an alleged suicide at the age of 45. The visitors claim to have heard strange noises coming from his old bedroom, and a film crew shooting at the house once saw him appear in full Superman regalia. There you go, folks. We're going to go to our last break. Don't go away. More to come. It's me. It's time. It's time for the last half hour of the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've kind of moved quickly through the night, all things considered. But thank you all so much for being here with me as we go through the remainder of the show, which is just about 25 more minutes. That's about all we get in the last segment here. But I thought that might be cool, and I'm going to put a link in the YouTube or in the TFR chat for any of you that are interested in following along on this next segment. I think this is pretty cool because this is something that's been talked about many, many times, and I think it should be discussed. I think we'll probably finish that last article though, because there are just a couple more in here of these famous people that have turned into ghosts or become a haunter of their own. So the next one on the list, there's just 3 more, is Orson Welles. Orson Welles apparently is a famous ghost. Welles completely changed the face of cinema and has haunted film students for decades through Citizen Kane film studies screenings, though in a far less ghostly sense. But since he died of a heart attack at the age of 70 on October 11th, 1985, he now is also haunts some of his favorite dining spots too, specifically a hot spot that used to be the Ma Maison restaurant, M-A-I-S-O-N, which has since been turned into Sweet Lady Jane Bakery. Customers have reported sightings of Welles at his favorite corner table, noting that he only appears for a few seconds, wearing all black and a wide-brimmed hat. I wonder if that's a good thing. Is he a hat man? Did Orson Welles become a hat man in the afterlife? I hope not. Unless that's a fun job. I don't know, it might be. Montgomery Clift. I don't recognize this name, or Clift. Montgomery Clift. Marilyn Monroe isn't the only celebrity ghost haunting the Roosevelt Hotel. She's in good company, as Montgomery Clift likes to spend his ghostly time there as well. Clift, a 4-time Oscar nominee, died at the age of 45 and became a posthumous queer icon as he was revealed to be bisexual by Elizabeth Taylor at the GLAAD Media Awards in 2000. Clift now haunts the Roosevelt Hotel, specifically room 928, where he's been known to pat guests on the shoulder and give people the feeling of being watched. That's kind of creepy. I wonder why you do that. Abraham Lincoln is another one, and I think he's the last one. Yep. Abraham Lincoln. Now for a change of pace. Abraham Lincoln may not be a movie star or a music icon, but he loves a good haunting as much as the next celebrity ghost. Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth on April 14th, 1865 at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., but some White House staff have reported the occasional appearance of the former president wandering the building. Former First Lady Grace Coolidge claims to have seen him in the Oval Office by the window, and former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill is also purported to have seen Abe while staying in the Lincoln bedroom. Churchill emerged from the bathtub when he spotted the president's ghost. Well, I wasn't expecting company. I'll bet you weren't. So there you go, folks. Those are some famous ghosts, famous hauntings. Yeah, that's kind of sounds tragic that there's so many of them. But I guess, who knows what their lives are like if they're very tormented people in life and maybe just feel like things changed too quickly. But anyway, did I put the link in there? Yes, I did. So there's a link in the TFR chat, folks, for those of you that want to go along with this next one. Those of you on YouTube, you can enjoy it on your screens. Excuse me. Just trying to fight the frog away. But anyway, UFO depicted in artworks. This is from Connect Zhao UFO. Connect Zhao, I guess is how you say that. UFO.com. And it's UFOs depicted in artworks. And these are classical artworks where it's strange, but there really seems to be UFO-like depictions in these classic artworks. And let me blow this up because it's very small. 150 is a good number for me. UFOs and strange figures that would look like space visitors are often found in cave paintings, on cave walls, or on the planet, but these images also appear in classic pieces of art, especially those depicting divine events. What would have led such artists to portray these enigmatic flying objects at a time when the pinnacle of technology, when it came to means of transport, was limited to simple carriages? This is Annelies Lauricensis. The figures who appear above in the Annales Lecensis, a French manuscript of the 12th century, in which it is detailed the siege of the castle of Sigeberg in the year 776 by the Saxons. In these texts, it said that when the Saxon invaders had surrounded the fortress, a fleet of discs appeared in the sky, hovering over the church. Then the Saxons understood the event as a kind of heavenly protection, and decided to withdraw from the battle. That's interesting. So I guess it makes sense that there'd be discs in the sky. The Annunciation of Saint Emedius. And there's the UFO depicted there in the sky between the two buildings. It says, painted by the Italian Carlo Crivelli in 1486, this work celebrates the proclamation of the angel Gabriel to the Virgin Mary, who would give life to Jesus. For the experts in paintings, the object from which the ray of light or Holy Spirit comes out towards Mary's head is nothing more than a group of angels spinning in a circle around the clouds. But for the defenders of the UFO phenomena, it depicts a flying saucer and the Virgin Mary's contact with aliens. And according to this interpretation, Jesus could be extraterrestrial. So does that look like angels? I don't know. It doesn't really, like, for all of the obvious attempt of detail, why would the circle of angels look like some amorphous blob? I mean, there's obviously able to very well detail the intricate carvings on the walls and buildings, so, and even the tapestry. So why would they make the choir of angels circle look like just a blob? I don't know. I don't know that that's the explanation that I would believe, but I think it does look more like a UFO. The Baptism of Christ. This work by the Dutch painter Aert de Gelder was made around 1710 and depicts the baptism of Jesus. In the New Testament, Matthew 3:16, we read, as soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. At that moment, heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. The painting shows what appears to be columns of light coming from the sky and illuminating the scene, presumably sent by God, but it was believed that the Dutch artist, Rembrandt's disciple, has gained access to the secret archives of the Vatican Library, and that Gelder's paintings, especially this one, were ways the painter found of transmitting this secret knowledge to the public. Huh. Well, could be. Looks like a disc, but it also looks like a portal or something else. So I don't think that that's conclusive as much as some of the other ones. The Crucifixion of Christ, this one's more convincing. This work is painted in 1350 and is in the Visoki Dekani Monastery in Kosovo, Serbia. It shows the crucifixion of Jesus, but one can notice two strange flying objects next to Jesus, which carry human figures and would be, according to traditional experts, representations of the sun left and the moon right, as a way to show the cycle of life day and night in a humanized way. But according to UFO theorists, it is believed that these objects represent alien ships with their pilots dressed in spacesuits and would be a useful way to reveal to world's humanity contact with aliens and perhaps even extraterrestrial nature of Jesus itself. So those are the depictions. And this one's actually at the top of the article in much more detail. We go back up there. That's this. So, I don't know. Could be just an artistic way of depicting the moon as being governed by some sort of divine intelligence, but could also very well be a UFO. I don't know. The glorification of the Eucharist. Commissioned by the Church of San Pietro of de Montalcino, or Chino, I don't know. This painting was made by the Italian Ventura Salimbeni in 1595 and is believed that it suggests the possibility of alien life or time travel. See, this one I know is often this orb is looking like a satellite, like maybe the Sputnik. But I really believe they're supposed to be, God and Jesus are supposed to be holding pens and writing onto the world. But anyway, the object in the controversy is one that lies between Jesus and God, and which has a format very similar to that of the Russian satellite Sputnik, which began the space race in 1957, which led many to suggest that the artist could predict the future or have traveled through time. Another theory suggests that the object could be some kind of Earth monitoring device by extraterrestrials. Traditional historians say that the object is only the globe of creation, but strangely it seems to have a metallic finish and contains no evidence of land or continents, suggesting that it would be something artificial and not divine. The Book of Good Manners, the next one, some of the Christian virtues such as chastity, caution, meekness, justice, moderation, obedience, diligence, and humility are depicted in the Book of Good Manners, written by Frenchman Jacques Legrand in 1338. The book is on display at the Condé Museum, housed in the historic Chantilly Castle in France, and clearly the mysterious sphere at the center of the scene is surrounded by other strange flying objects, is what arouses the controversy never explained. Well, that is that is pretty peculiar. Is that just a fancy depiction of the sun? I don't know. Who knows? Madonna with St. Giovannino. Vanino? Okay. There's a debate. Yeah, and there's the UFO there and more close. And it does really look like a flying saucer. It really does. Is that guy looking at it too? I don't know. Interesting. The debate about who is the author of the work above, called Madonna col Bambino San Giovannino, is in the original language. The 15th century painting is commonly attributed to Domenico Ghirlandaio, although some art historians consider Arcangelo di Jacopo del Cegliao and others Bastiano Minardi as its creator. The Renaissance painting exhibited at Palazzo Vecchio in Florence, Italy, depicts Mother Mary of Jesus looking at the two children, but in the background one can see a clear picture of what appears to be a flying UFO, while a man blocks the sun with his hand and faces the strange object in the sky, demonstrating that said object might not be anything unusual at the time. The miracle of the snow. Oh, look at that. Looks like a whole bunch of discs, but I think it's probably just supposed to be clouds. Anyway, the panel of the Italian Renaissance painter Masolino de Panicale, made in the 15th century, depicts an event that became known as the miracle of the snow, an off-season snowfall which occurred in Rome during the 4th century on a summer day. The image shows the population trying to understand what is happening, while Jesus and Mary observed everyone of what would be a large cloud surrounded by dozens of other small clouds. UFOlogists believe that they are not clouds, but rather a fleet of extraterrestrial ships, and argue that the objects would be a part of the original story and would be responsible for the out-of-season snow. Sudden temperature changes are associated with UFO sightings, and there is a record of October 27, 1954, when numerous disc-shaped objects were reportedly sighted flying over the city of Florence, Italy, in the middle of the afternoon, and their passage was followed by the fall of snowflakes. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was any temperature shift associated with UFOs. The Pranjan Paramita Sutra. The image belongs to the text Pranja Paranita Sutra, the Sutras of Perfection of Wisdom, translated in the 10th century from Sanskrit to Tibetan, and which is exhibited in a museum in Japan. Originally written in India around the year 100 BC, the text refers to the perfected way of seeing the nature of reality, and one of its most important characteristics is the Nutpada, a Buddhist concept for absence of origin. The drawings contained in the book represent the Vimanas, a kind of two-story circular or cylindrical nave with lookouts in a dome. The text states that the object flew with the speed of the wind and gave rise to a melodious sound. The Prodigiorum Liber. The Italian Julius Obsequens was a writer from ancient Rome who lived in the 4th century and made a compilation called the Prodigiorum Liber, the Book of Wonders, based on the work of Titus Livio, a Roman historian, containing several texts that refer to extraordinary and supernatural events that occurred in the ancient Rome Empire between 249 BC and 12 BC. The illustration belongs to a UFO sighting, and the text reads, "Something like some kind of weapon, chiminous and golden, rose from the from the ground with great noise and fired towards the sky. Huh. Well, that would be understood to be unusual. This is the Vatican reliquary. In the mysterious secret Vatican library, there is a reliquary containing stones from Palestine from the 6th and 7th centuries. What draws attention is that one of the several images that adorn the reliquary shows a representation of Mary in a tomb of Jesus, and behind a strange object appears with a dome from which emanates a beam of light. Yeah. The land of Gungji. There's an ancient Chinese illustration of a book entitled The Land of Gungji, Illustrated Study of Strange Countries. It was written around 1400 and contains cryptic passages like this. People could blow the chariots that traveled far with the power of wind in the days of Tarng, 1700 BC. The people of, Gungji flew in a car heading west in Yuzhou. Tarng had dismantled his car so that it could not be shown to the people. Then came an east wind in which he used to blow his car towards his own country, 5,000 kilometers east of our lands. This tapestry was, what is this one? The Triumph of Sumer? Or Sumer? This tapestry was made in 1538, Bruges, Belgium, and is currently on display at the National Museum of Bavaria in Germany. This piece appears to represent the rise of a ruler to power and shows several objects in the upper corners of the tapestry, like saucers that appear to have domes, very similar to reports of modern UFOs. Since there are no known religious symbols that are similar to this, it is assumed these objects do not symbolize something divine, and it is possible that the artist was recreating a phenomena that he himself had observed. Oh yeah, there we are. Maybe they were just poorly made clouds, though, too. That's certainly possible. But anyway, this is the Ume no Churi. Written in 1844, Ume no Churi is one of 3 Japanese texts that report the landing of a mysterious object that was found drifting off the coast of Hidachi Province in the eastern Japan in 1803. The other 2 texts are the Shosetsu from 1825 and the Hororyu Kishu of 1835. The illustration depicts the characteristics of the object that Japanese sailors found floating in the ocean. From inside the hollow boat came out of a woman who did not speak Japanese. She then returned to her ship and disappeared into the sea, never being seen again. For Japanese folklorists, Ume no Chiri is just one of the several legends about supernatural beings that permeate Japanese culture, but for ufologists, it is evidence of extraterrestrial contact. Life of the Virgin, next. In the Basilica of Buene Notre Dame in Burgundy, France, built in the 12th century, there is an incredible tapestry dating from 15th century in which you can enjoy various events in the life of the Virgin Mary. The detail in one is of the images on the left side of the upper corner, in which one notices a strange object which resembles a UFO flying over the city just above the figure of the woman, 3 women of the period. Oh, there it is again. Maybe that was a classical way to just make clouds. I don't know. Because you look at the whole image and it's not real high on detail. It's just very, very bleak looking buildings that are just symbolic of the architecture of the time, but nothing ornate. Even the figures, while they do have, features, they're not like the classics or anything. So perhaps this was just a way of doing clouds though too. Why only one? I don't know. Maybe there wasn't a lot of clouds that day. I don't know. But I don't think you can dismiss that possibility either. It doesn't have to be just possibly UFOs. It does look like a classic saucer shape, but I don't know. Could be, but maybe not. But again, those are some depictions of what could be UFOs in ancient art, and I've heard of these many, many times through the years. And I think it's compelling, at least some of these are definitely compelling, that they could very well be depicted that way, especially this one, from the Madonna with St. Giovannino. Could very well be. That's very out of place in the whole image. And you got this over here with whatever these are. These could be more of them, maybe. I don't know. Everything else seems to have a real classical look about it and looks in place. This doesn't. This doesn't look in place. And this person looking at it also looks peculiar as well. So I don't know, maybe there is some kind of secrets being relayed by these artists that had knowledge of some of what's in the Vatican libraries. Who knows? Just speculation, of course, folks, but they do look rather unique and weird. But again, this one, I don't know, could very well be the sun and the moon. So nothing too out of place or out of character. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. It's something a little different on the show. We've never covered that. I mean, we've referenced it before, but we've never covered this stuff directly. So I think it's interesting stuff. And I was going to try to share another article with you, but we just won't have time for that. So let's see if there's something else we can cover here quickly. This is something from an article that we've been going through over a long period of time. I visit this every once in a while because I think sometimes it's good to have, a very light and wonderful content. And this is from a site called learnreligions.com, and it talks about angelic encounters. And we're on the one that says, "My father came to me." My father passed away on February 1st, 2012. Soon afterward, I had a dream that my father was waiting for me, but the closer I came to him, the further he moved away. He was standing at the top of a flight of stairs, which was very high, and I could not get to him. It was as if he was watching over me. And then a few nights ago, he appeared as an angel to my mom's neighbor, who was sleeping in mom's bed. He just stood there and then disappeared. And after she told him my mom is being taken care of by me, and she is fine, I miss him so much. Sharon. I think we did read that one, actually. The next one is Moonville, Ohio Angels. I'm going to do a quick cough. Sorry about that. Moonville, Ohio is an old town that was overtaken by a plague. Almost everyone died. All that is left of the town is a tunnel. We went through the tunnel, and 3 of my grandsons climbed to the top of the hill. And there was a thin beam of light that looked like a sword. It was right in front of us, and I couldn't see when I looked up to take a picture. The light was so bright, but I took the picture anyway. When we got back to our cabin, I looked at the picture, and there was a bubble in the middle of the thin beam of light. It was right in front of my grandsons, right in front of my grandson, Jordan. Jordan lost his father at 9 months old. He was killed by a train. When I blew up the picture, there were angels as plain as day looking right at Jordan. My 5-year-old granddaughter, Mason, said, "I told you, Mommy, I saw an angel." I have the picture of the angels in the bubble. I want to share with the world what a blessing we saw at Moonville that day. That was by Diane Ventura. Very cool. Angelic words. My angel spoke to me once and told me his name. It happened when I came back from my shopping. My mom told me to ask who my angel was. I was barely forming the question when he told me one name, Gabriel. Afterward, I could feel him standing near me in a soft light with the golden swirls. That was by Shasari. Digital angel. Well, I had 2 angels. One when I was 10 and I heard someone whisper my name, but no one was there. Could be just a ghost. But anyway, it's better, I suppose, to think it's an angel. My angel communicates with me by using dots in the clock. Last night it was on my iPad and I randomly felt someone lightly squeeze or touch my arm. I was confused at first and started looking around, but no one was there. So I looked at the time and it was 2:23. I just missed 2:22, one of the times when they let me know that they're here. I was amazed. That was by Courtney. There does seem to be a significance with time. When you get those repeating time patterns, 111 or 1111 or 222 or 333, 444, 555. I think those are pretty powerful. I do think, when you see them in patterns is when it's most powerful. Like maybe there is a message in that. So I always look on Google, what is the significance of like 444? And there's these thing called angel numbers they're referred to. It's just another play on numerology, I'm sure, but sometimes the messages really seem to fit. Is that circumstance? Maybe. But what if it isn't? What if that is one of the ways we get those divine clues or those little hints from someone looking out for us? I think that's really powerful. Maybe. I know everybody's experienced it. Everybody's experienced like, God, I always see the number 222 all the time, and I always see 444. Like I'll see in periods of like several times in a matter of day or days, I'll see the same number sequence, usually days, because obviously if you're looking at a clock, you're only going to see it twice a day. But, I've seen 1111 many times in one day, both times. And you think, what is the odds that would happen? And I don't know, but I think it's pretty magnificent. So those are some angel stories to stop the night with. I hope you enjoyed those. Just a couple of positive things to think about. But anyway, that's about going to wrap up the show. Remember, Paisley Wild's coming up next, The Spaces Between. So I hope you'll check out her and her show, and you might even catch a glimpse of the Longbeard there. I'm just saying, it happens. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for being here with me. Remember, I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.